Today we're going to be turning in our Rangers, heading down to Monterey, hopping in the water and finding us some massive Lingcod down at Stillwater Cove. If you like catching big fish, you're interested in freediving or spearfishing, this is going to be the episode for you. This right here is a Lingcod, or at least as close as we could get to it with our budget. Now the goal of catching a Lingcod is to eat their ass, because they're delicious. So here we are on our first dive, making our way down. I found this tiny little cubby hole off to the left side, and it was a little triangle basically. This is a little hole for the rockfish to hide in. There's a black and yellow rockfish off to the right and one inside that hole. I heard this noise and it kind of freaked me out. I think it had came from the fish, but it might have been something to go on with my goggles. And it's a lot louder than you could hear in the camera there. But I let that guy go. I wasn't really too interested in the rockfish at this point. I was still kind of looking for cabezone and lingcod. Came across this imitator crab. They're super cool. They stay insanely camouflaged. I had to kind of readjust because he was about to get me there. His claws were a little bit longer than usual. What I do to handle these and pretty much any species of crab from here to Florida is you grab them with 2 fingers right there in the tail. And typically the anatomy for most of them is that their claws basically can't reach you there. This one almost can, but you could see for some reason that seemed to kind of paralyze him. He just kind of hung out there with his arms out. Usually with those smaller rock crabs and Dungeness that we can grab around here, they'll still be trying to reach down there and get you as much as they can. So I ended up just letting this guy go down. He kind of froze up like that. Let him float down to the bottom. And he ended up actually helping me almost catch a fish that you'll see here in a second. I was just kind of getting a look at him because I haven't seen too many of these guys out there. I just see him maybe once every couple dives. Let him float back down there while I catch my breath. And off to the abyss. And that really kind of gives you a good idea of how deep we were diving because that guy just disappears down there. I head back down and I saw a little fish was right next to him. So I thought maybe I'll take that guy. I start following him a little bit. Anytime I come down from the top half, and here I ended up actually missing him, but anytime I come down from the top half of a fish, they always get super skittish and end up taking off. You always want to come broadside to them and they tend to move in a way. Same thing happened here. If you're coming down on the top, the shot's going to be super hard to get. You're not going to have a lot of, space to even be able to shoot. But I still, at this point, wasn't really caring too much about the rockfish and, kelp bass and all that kind of stuff. This right here, I think, is in there. And you'll want to make sure you put your hands on the other side of that so they don't kick off there. So I'm just doing my breathe up here. Can see a couple fish floating down there below me. These I think are either blue or black rockfish. Pretty sure they're blues. The blue and black rockfish look so similar that they're pretty tough to tell the difference unless you've seen quite a bit of them. And I come up on this guy here, take my shot. Super quick, was only down there maybe 20-30 seconds. You don't need to stay down there for 5 minutes, contrary to popular belief. Everybody's, like, oh, how do you stay down there so long? Sometimes it's just, a lot of the times actually, it's just a short little breath, especially if you can see all the way down to the bottom and you go during low light, low visibility hours when, you have enough light to see to the bottom, but the fish activity is up because it's overcast or maybe a little bit rainy, stuff like that. You'll have a lot more of these fish coming out from underneath their holes that they're hiding in and moving out in the open. The rockfish will typically be out any time of day or night, essentially. I'm more so referring to like the Lingcod and cabezone, they'll have a little bit more activity. Cabezone, they'll still tend to stay pretty still, but they might be out on the rocks and stuff like that, kind of hanging out, looking for their dinner, because they know that the things that they're after are out hunting. And for the Lingcod, they'll usually be swimming around the typically a little bit less kelpy areas, it looks like. For the smaller ones I've seen, it'll kind of look like just bigger rock surfaces, and they'll kind of be swimming around there. And for the big ones, they'll typically be in their caves guarding their nest and stuff like that during winter. But right now you might find some of those big ones out hunting as well. So I was just making sure to check all these rocks, cracks, crevices. There's quite a bit nearby. Ended up having this guy come right up on me. And I was like, hey, I'll just go ahead and take one before I head on up. At this point, I'm just trying to kind of limit out and get some rockfish, because I'm not having too much luck finding the cabezone or Lingcod. And I'm just trying to bring some dinner to the guys at work when I head back to night shift. Another little kelp rockfish there. Going ahead and doing another breathe up. And I start heading on down here. You see that little guy going around thinking I'm gonna go after him. Like, no, you're 2 inches, not big enough to eat. And here is a black and yellow rockfish. Ended up pretty sure getting a kill shot there, straight through the spine, right through his head. That's always nice, because you put them out of their misery quickly. You don't have to worry about dispatching them as fast as you will with the other guys. And he's just stoned there, not moving at all. You can typically tell when they're successfully dispatched when you're poking them in the head. When they have kind of a last couple twitches, that you'll be able to tell that you kind of severed their nervous system, spinal cord, brain, so on and so forth. They'll have a last couple twitches, they'll usually flex their tail, and then that will release and they'll go limp. And that's usually the sign to me that it's a successful dispatch. This guy, again, came through down on the top of him. He let me get close enough to get that shot. But again, you usually want to come from the broadside if you're able to. I'm still practicing my breath holds and everything, so I usually don't have enough in me to kind of go swim away and reposition and then come back in from the side like I would like to ideally. But hey, successful shot's a successful shot. This one's barely on him, and he's gonna start kicking and stuff, so I gotta grab him, because they will rip right off of there. They are super strong, even though they might be small. Doing my breathe up, going on and heading down. For a lot of these smaller fish, you could just use one band, but I'm always paranoid it's not going to be enough, so I just double band it pretty much all the time and slam my pole into a lot of rocks. This guy, he was asking for it. He popped right there in front of me, and I said, yoink, you're coming with me for dinner, buddy. Making our way down here. You can see a little rockfish off to the left there. Blends in pretty well with those shadows. Able to secure him as well. Start bringing him back up to the surface. Nice thing about the gun over the pole spear Hawaiian sling is even if you don't have the float line, if it's a wood gun, you can usually shoot it, and then you can kind of just come back up to the surface and the wood gun will float. Had an issue with that the other day when the Lingcod started pulling the gun under the cave, and we had to go get it out with Artem's help. But in theory, it'll just be floating there and kind of apply tension if the fish is inside the cave, and it'll usually be in that position. This looks kind of trippy because I'm spinning around underwater, basically, looking at different angles and everything. Tons of great structure and rocks. I forgot my flashlight, otherwise I probably would have found some rockfish or lingcod. Came up on this guy, went ahead and grabbed him as well. Psych, I missed. It looked like I had gotten him for sure. But Kyle ended up grabbing 2 lingcod over in about 50 to 65 feet of water. Got an absolutely massive honker here. I think he was about 32 inches. Probably at least like 10, 15 pounds. It's a female here. Absolutely beautiful fish. It's gonna be a crazy fillet. Awesome amount of meat. Then just headed back to the beach, fed the seagulls, cleaned up our fish, and headed on home.